As we're working with Cisco IOS, maybe on a router, maybe on a switch, we're going to be in a specific privilege level which dictates what commands we have access to, and that's going to be the focus of this video. Hi, my name is Kevin Wallace, and in this week's video, we're going to consider Cisco IOS privilege levels. We'll begin by defining what they are, and we'll see that we have three different privilege levels by default. There is 0, 1, and 15, and we'll take a look at the characteristics of each one, and we'll discuss how different IT staff members might need different privilege levels. For example, maybe we want the help desk to be able to see lots of things, but maybe we don't want them to configure our BGP path attributes as an example, while we do want some of the more senior network engineers to be able to give those BGP configuration commands. We can control who can do what with privilege levels. Then we're going to go out to a live interface and we'll do a demonstration of how we navigate between these different levels. How do we go from level 1 to level 15 and then maybe back down to level 1? And then we're going to create a custom level and we'll assign a specific command to that level. And when someone logs into our router or switch, based on their user configuration, we could automatically assign them to that level. And I'm guessing that you're watching this video because you regularly work with Cisco IOS, and if that is indeed the case, I invite you to check out our Udemy site. Just go to kwtrain.com/Udemy, where you can pick up any of these Cisco certification trainings or the CompTIA Network Plus training as well. You can pick those up for a very low Udemy price. Again, that's kwtrain.com/Udemy. Now let's jump into our training on Cisco IOS privilege levels. Cisco IOS gives us a variety of commands. However, we might not want every user to have access to each command. For example, maybe we want somebody at the help desk to be able to issue some show commands, maybe help diagnose an issue, but maybe they're not trained to go configure an advanced routing protocol. What we can do is use privilege levels to dictate which commands are available to which users, and that's what we're going to be checking out in this video. Specifically, we have 16 different privilege levels that we can assign commands to, and those are numbered in the range of 0 through 15. There are 3 of these that we have by default, and if we want, we can populate the other 3 default privilege levels we have. First, we have level 0. This only supports 5 commands. There's not much we can do here except go to a different privilege level, get some basic help, or exit. When we first log into a router or a switch, however, we're in user mode. In other words, privilege level 1, and this is going to give us access to a limited set of read-only commands. We can look at a few things here, but we cannot configure anything. Level 15, however, is what we call privilege mode, and here we have access to all of our commands. This includes both read-only commands and read-write commands. And to illustrate how this works, let's go visit a Cisco Catalyst switch, and we'll see what commands are available in the 3 default privilege levels. Then I'll show you how we can create a custom privilege level and how we can assign a command to that level. Now, let's go out to our Cisco Catalyst switch and take a look. We're sitting at the console of a Cisco Catalyst switch, and I'm connected via the console port. Let's press Enter, and notice that the switch name is SW1, and the prompt has a greater than sign. That is our default user mode. In other words, we are currently in privilege level 1. We can confirm that by saying show privilege, and it tells us that the current privilege level is 1. What can we do from this level? Well, we can use a question mark to get some context-sensitive help. If I say question mark, we can scroll through the available commands. And when it gets down to more, I can tap the space bar to go on to the next screen. And we do have several commands that we have access to here in user mode, but none of these commands allow us to change the configuration. We can look at a few things, but we cannot configure anything. Notice we do have access to the show command, and there are several things that we can show. And to get a better sense for that, I could say show space question mark. Again, we call this context-sensitive help. This is going to tell me what commands are available for the show command. Here are the different things that we can show. Now let's go to privileged mode, which is level 15. To do that, I could say enable, and I have to give a password, so I'll type in the password. And notice my prompt now changes from a greater than sign to a pound sign. And I could say show privilege, and it says we're at level 15. Now, if I use context-sensitive help, you'll see I have access to even more commands. And some of these commands are read-write commands, where we can alter or erase the configuration of our device. If I want to go back to user mode, I could do that in a couple of different ways. I could say disable. I entered enable to get into this mode, and disable would take me back. Or I could have said enable and given the privilege level. Enable 1 takes me to user mode. But recall that we also had a level 0. Let's go there. Let's say enable 0. The prompt stays the same as user mode. We have a greater than sign, but when I do context-sensitive help, you'll see that I only have those 5 commands available. So at this point, we've seen what commands are available in the 3 different default levels. Now let's alter that a bit. Specifically, one of the commands available to user mode, level 1, was the traceroute command, which we could use for troubleshooting. However, let's say that we want to limit that to a higher privilege level, maybe level 2 and above. What we can do is define that layer 2 privilege level. To do that, we need to be in level 15, where we can make a configuration change. So let's say enable 15. We'll enter that password again. And to change the configuration of our switch, or this would work the same on a router, we'll say configure terminal. Or we could say conf space T for short. If there are no other commands that begin with CONF, then it knows we mean configure. And if the only configure option that begins with a T is terminal, then conf T is interpreted as configure terminal, and it saves us a few keystrokes. Now we're in global configuration mode. And we see that with the config keyword inside of parentheses. And I say we're in global configuration mode because configurations I do here globally affect the switch, not just a specific interface. And what we want to do is make the traceroute command available to privilege level 2 and above, not available to privilege level 1, which it is by default. To do that, I have to assign a password to level 2. Here's how we do that. I'll say enable secret level 2, and let's use a password of Cisco. And now that we have a password assigned to level 2, let's say that the traceroute command is available to level 2 and higher. To do that, we'll say privilege exec level 2, and I'll give the command of traceroute. And we're done, so we can say end. This takes me back out to privilege mode. And remember, I'm currently in level 15, and I could issue the traceroute command. I could say traceroute, and it's going to ask me for the protocol and the IP address. I'm going to break out of that, but the traceroute command is available. If I say disable, and I go back to level 1, now, even though the traceroute command is available to level 1 by default, it will not be now. I'll say traceroute, press enter, and it thinks I'm typing in some sort of DNS name. It doesn't recognize this as a keyword because it's no longer available to level 1. It's only available to level 2 and higher. Let's go to level 2. I'll say enable 2. We're being prompted for that password we entered, which was Cisco. And if I use my question mark here, we're going to see all the commands available to level 1, plus we have traceroute available. So I can say traceroute here at level 2, and we'll break out of that. And that's a look at Cisco iOS privilege levels. We have 16 levels possible, 0 through 15. We have 3 by default, level 0, level 1, also known as user mode, and level 15, also known as privilege mode. And we took a look in this video at what commands are available in each of those levels, and how we could take a command from one level and assign it to a higher privilege level.